Hey guys, come on over. So, what you're looking at is me on a Sherman tank at the Museum of American Armor here on Long Island. Today, I'm going to show you guys how to improve your tanker impression. So, a lot of people don't really know how to properly do a World War II tanker or armored crew impression, and today we're going to show you guys how to fix that. So, World War II tankers, generally speaking, they wore just about the same kind of thing, kind of uniforms and gear as the standard rifleman or infantryman, GI, on the ground throughout the entire war. I felt I should clarify some of what I said in this segment here. So what I'm saying is tank crews pretty much had the same exact uniform garments as pretty much everybody else in the Army at the time, as in wool uniforms, HBTs, things like that. You even see tankers wearing standard M41 jackets, M43 jackets, things like that. That your standard GI of pretty much any type or kind would also have. However, I will say that the norm in general for tank crews is HPT coveralls with wools underneath, and or the tanker jacket and tanker bibs, as well as an M1 helmet or a tanker helmet. So that's just your basic garments and clothes that tankers wear. And as far as boots, pretty much just whatever is more common at the time period that you're portraying. So basically, at least until late 1944, you should be wearing leggings with rough outs or service shoes. And then you can start to wear double buckles, portraying anything from, say, September, August of 44 to the end of the war. Of course, do unit-specific research and time period-specific research for any unit or impression you're doing. This really should be an unwritten rule of reenacting, but I guess I should mention that every time I say something, so there you go. Let's carry on with the video. A lot of guys just wore your basic 1937 model wools and HBTs. Most original pictures, you see guys in tanker jackets, tanker bibs, wools. You see a variance of uniforms throughout the war, but generally speaking, a lot of their stuff is very similar to that of a GI on the ground. Pretty much every tanker reenactor should have, at minimum, a set of wools, a pair of leggings, rough outs or service shoes. Like I said, pretty much the exact same kind of stuff that riflemen have. The only real requirements for tanker-specific items that you should have for a tanker impression are your tanker helmet, comms, and a tanker jacket, really. I'll include a link to my Facebook page where I have a 600 plus photo album of original period photos from World War II of GI tank crews during the war. It's pretty much mostly focused on vehicle crews, tank and tank destroyer crews in the ETO, not so much the PTO. But in the PTO, most guys pretty much just wore HBT coveralls or just the regular HBTs with a tank top or even no undershirt or anything underneath their shirt. Some didn't even wear leggings. But generally speaking, this is your basic World War II tanker impression, what I'm wearing right here. I guess now we'll get into some more specific stuff. here are my original set of first pattern HPT coveralls. Pretty much every tanker would have these. They're kind of beat up, but they still do the job for me. As you can see, these pockets, they're different than those of the second pattern HPT coveralls. The second patterns would have only one pocket right here on your left breast, and it would have a button flap rather than no buttons here for the flaps. So these are a lot harder to find, the second patterns, but either one is appropriate for pretty much any, generally speaking, any World War II tanker impression. Next up, the M1 helmet. Every tanker reenactor should have one of these at the very minimum. If you don't have a tanker helmet at first, that's totally fine. If you look through original photos, you see a pretty even split between vehicle crewmen as far as who's wearing M1 helmets and who's wearing tanker helmets. In fact, the tanker helmet, 1938 model tanker helmet, was designed so that you could fit an M1 helmet over top of your tanker helmet for extra protection, although it wouldn't be very much. Tank destroyer crewmen who would be in the tank destroyers, they had an open top on their tank destroyers, so you wouldn't be able to just button up when you're in the turret like you would in the Sherman, Stuarts, etc. that have closed tops. However, the driver and co-driver of the tank destroyers, they had hatches and they could button up if they had to. A lot of the open top tank destroyer crews in the turret, a lot of them you see wearing M1 helmets rather than their tanker helmets. So, in my opinion, everybody should have, at minimum, an M1 helmet for the tanker impression. Tanker helmet should be your second priority, but it should still be a priority. The tanker helmet is still a vital part of your tanker impression. Originals are very hard to find, especially if you have a watermelon-sized head, like me. Most originals you find, you're only going to find them in between size 7, 7 1/4-ish size. So if you're a 7 3/4 head like me, you're pretty much screwed as far as getting a original tanker helmet that you can wear for your impression. So, go to either Quartermaster Inspector, QMI, they're in Belgium. That's where I got my tanker helmet. I think they sell them for about $100 now, plus shipping. But they're a pretty good reproduction. You can see here, the inside. Color looks pretty good. The leather is a little bit probably darker than it should be, but other than that, it's a really good quality reproduction. At the front and What Price Glory also sell tanker helmets. If you would prefer to have one that has a stamp that was made by looks like it was made by Rawlings, as the originals were. Majority of them, at least. Franklin, and I believe another company or a few more also made them. Unfortunately, the early World War II and pre-World War II donut tanker helmet, which basically has a big inner tube around the circumference of the helmet, is not being reproduced to my knowledge right now. But if any of you happen to know otherwise or know of anybody reproducing a donut tanker helmet, please let me know, because I'm looking for one. But yeah, the donut tanker helmets are pretty much a requirement for early and pre-World War II tanker impressions. As a majority of early war pictures, tankers have them. Rather than the M1938 without the donut around it. But yeah, so it's your tanker. There's a whole plethora of period eye protection you can wear for a tanker impression. The most common one would be the Polaroid goggles, which I'll show you right now. There you go. This is the World War II Polaroid goggles. Most commonly used form of eye protection for pretty much any World War II impression, not even just a tanker and armored crew. And here are your spare lenses and instructions that come with the goggles. Nobody, to my knowledge, reproduces these goggles yet. I mean, they are pretty easy to find on eBay and elsewhere. Next up on my tanker helmet right now, we have the anti-flash eye shields. These come in a little paper package. They don't have any extra like filters or anything. They're pretty much just to cover your eyes. But yeah, there is a decent amount of original pictures of tankers using these as their goggles. Next up, we have what are called dark adaptation goggles. Very similar in design to the anti-flash eye shields on my tanker helmet. You see a lot of original photos of airborne troops actually using these on their M1 helmet. These are relatively easy to find too on eBay and fairly cheap. There is plenty of evidence of tank crews and vehicle crewmen wearing these as well. Now the one form of eye protection I don't have is the M1938, I believe, resistol goggles. They have glass lenses. Originals are very hard to find, and if you do find them, they're usually pretty much destroyed. You should really have those for any tanker impression from, say, North Africa and before. But yeah, those are very hard to find originals for. However, What Price Glory is now reproducing them. They're charging $115 a piece plus shipping, but they are good quality reproductions from what I've heard. I'd like to get some for myself sometime soon. But yeah, that's a necessity for an early war tanker impression. So as far as eye protection, anything that I mentioned here, plus the resistol goggles, that's what you should be wearing for your eye protection as a vehicle crewman. M1944 goggles M44 goggles, the big, thick, black goggles. Under no circumstances, well, I shouldn't say no circumstances, but for pretty much any World War II vehicle crewman impression, M44 goggles are not appropriate at all. Whether you're being tanker, infantry, whatever, any GI impression, M44 goggles are a no-go. There is no evidence, I should say minimal evidence of their use in World War II at all by GIs. I believe there is one photo of a Chaffee driver in Germany wearing them in, I believe, I want to say between March and May of 1945. And there's an airborne troop wearing a pair of M44s in somewhere late in 45, I believe. But other than that, there is almost no evidence of M1944 goggles in use during World War II. And I don't mean to offend anybody with this comment, but if you wear M1944 goggles for a World War II impression, you're doing it wrong. The idea of reenacting is to represent World War II, well, reenacting in general, is to represent history as accurately as possible. And I'm sorry, but M1944 goggles, they might be cheap, they might be super common, easy to find, but they're not appropriate for any World War II impression. Unless you're doing something extremely, extremely late. Even then, there's just no evidence of them being worn. It's very easy to find yourself a pair of Polaroid goggles on eBay, a pair of eye shields on eBay. Any of these, I don't think I paid more than $20 for any pair of eye protection that I'm wearing, that I have right here in this video. So, sorry about my soapbox rant about the M1944 goggles, but I feel like it needed to be said. So, moving on. One more quick point on eye protection and goggles. So I realize most people will probably want to have some sort of eye protection on them when they're crewing a vehicle, especially an active one, because of the amount of dust kicks up and stuff like that. I get it. So I personally, if you only have M1944 goggles, that's your own decision, that's fine. I personally would never use them. However, if you have them, you can always just only wear them when your vehicle is active to protect your eyes. And then when your vehicle's not active and you're just hanging around or whatever else, just take your goggles off your helmet, or take them, put them in a pocket, a bag, even just inside your vehicle, a way that nobody can see it. It's just an easy, really, really easy way to drastically improve the quality of your impression. And at the same time, I'd say probably 15 to 20% of tanker and tank destroyer crews, crew members in original photos that I've seen, they actually look just like this, and they don't have any sort of eye protection on their helmet or on them at all. Why that is, I don't know for sure, but if you take a look in my reference album of 600 plus original photos, linked down in the description below, you'll see for yourself that this is a completely accurate look for pretty much any vehicle crewman in World War II. So, just my own personal recommendation to help out some of you guys, so you look better in photos that I'm sure tons of spectators will want to take of you, and you're just going to look a lot more like an actual World War II tanker by looking like this rather than having incorrect goggles on you. So, alright, moving on. I think next up we will move on to comms gear. First of all, right here we have the T17 hand microphone. If you watch Fury, Brad Pitt actually uses one of these to communicate with the crew and other vehicles. These are relatively easy to find. They were really only used in tanks by tank commander, and they would essentially replace your throat microphone, which is right here. This is the T30 throat microphone. These were used by both vehicle crewmen and Air Corps crews too. These are relatively easy to find on eBay too. Typically range between 30 and 50 bucks a piece for a new old stock one. Now here is something a bit hard to find. It's an extension cord for your headphones, which I'll show you now actually. In your tanker helmet, you will have headphones, the HS-18 headphones, which were also used by the Air Corps as well as vehicle crews in tanker helmets. Now this extension cord would get your cable from your helmet into your comms inside the tank, because this cord, there's no way this cord is going to be able to reach into your comms from your helmet inside the tank. So you plug that in like that, and then plug in to your comms inside the tank. These extension cords are a little bit hard to find. I've actually never seen just a cord by itself on eBay or anywhere else for sale, so it might be a little bit harder to find. Majority of everything that I've shown you guys is available on eBay. If you need help finding any of this stuff, feel free to DM me or comment, and I'll see what I can do for you for any of this gear on here. I'm always happy to help. Next up, we have the SW141 push-to-talk switch. It has a very long cable, and it connects to your throat microphone like so. Once we go through everything here, I will I'll put everything on for you guys to show you how it all looks once it's all hooked up to you together and on your person. The SW141 switch, you can find originals of these on eBay for anywhere between like 50 and 75 bucks, new old stock. They usually have a leather neckband like this to hold it up on your neck, so it's right here for you to push the switch, like so. As promised, here I am with everything hooked up and on me and ready to go. Push the sock switch down here, throat mic, extension cable on the PL54 cable for the headset, and yeah, that's pretty much everything. You're just gonna take your push to talk switch, push it, and then at the same time take your throat mic and push it up against your Adam's apple. Each little pad thing should be on the opposite sides of your Adam's apple, and then when you want to talk, push it up against your neck. Obviously don't do it too hard or hurt yourself, but push it up there a little bit, and the vibrations of your vocal cords when you speak will go through the cable, and your crewmates will hear what you're saying through their headphones. So pretty Pretty basic stuff, but there you go. That's it for comms right now, actually. Here are my binoculars for when I'm doing Tank Commander. Not necessarily a need for a tanker impression, unless of course you're doing a Tank Commander. And unless you're a Tank Commander, you really don't need to have binoculars. Nobody else would really ever have them. Here is the tanker hood. We will get into the winter combat uniform, the tanker jacket, tanker bibs, and the tanker hood more in depth in another video. Right now I just wanted to go over the very basics of a tanker impression. That's pretty much it for your basics here so far. Another thing as far as your vehicle is concerned, if you look at pretty much any original photo of vehicle crews, whether it be a Sherman, Stuart, tank destroyer, M18, M20, M8, armored cars, even Jeeps, half-tracks, you name it, World War II. The crews were essentially living out of their vehicle, so pretty much everything that they had with them would have to be either A, inside of the tank, or strapped to the side of it. So, regardless of what kind of vehicle you have, you should definitely have, in my opinion, some sort of cargo, whether it's extra field gear, a lot of ammo crates will be strapped to the back right here. Yeah, it's an essential detail of doing a World War II vehicle crew impression the right way. Your impression is not only what you're wearing, it's also what's on your vehicle and how your vehicle looks. Very common on pretty much any vehicle are musette bags like this hanging off. For tanks, your M1 helmet hanging off if you're not wearing it. There's no way to really strap your tanker helmet to the outside, so it's probably not a good idea to try to strap it to the outside, but you take your chin strap from your M1 helmet, find yourself a good spot, generally close to where you can reach it from your hatch. Flip your chin strap and hang it up. There you go. Now you get yourself GP bags, preferably musette bags or gas mask, lightweight gas mask bags. Hang them wherever you can find them that would be appropriate to hold extra gear, food, whatever. Whatever a tank crew would need, really. Whatever you need to survive, basically is what I'm saying. Hang up your bag like so. There you go. Strap your crates to the back, 30-06 ammunition crates, ration crates. Ration crates are very important. Yeah, pretty much everything you would need would be on this tank or inside of it. So, if you have any more questions, comments, concerns, whatever, about vehicle crew impressions, feel free to hit me up. So yeah, thank you guys for taking the time out to watch this video. Yeah, so see you in the next one.